Cocaine true, cocaine blue, cocaine have been lying to you. It makes you happy when you are sad. It makes you still when your mama dead. Make you smile for a while, swing you on the floor like a child. White specks here, white specks there. You even look at your sister here. You see the time, you look at the clock. Tell you it's time for another rock.
Possible, therefore, for American students of any color to attend any public institution they select without having to be backed up by troops.
God, I was thinking we were going back to the beginning because I've always been wondering more what drew me in to photography. I think what drew me in was a very different thing. I think it was the independence. I might have grew up in the age of cowboy movies or whatever that we journalists seem to be drawn to, and the idea of a life where you could be on your own. And I tried to go into print journalism, work for small newspapers, and I realized I didn't belong behind the desk, so on I went into the world. And so my beginnings were down as following my years as a Vista volunteer. And right immediately I realized that I was trying to photograph conditions of poverty in the Delta because I was pushed in that direction. I didn't have any great drive to do so. And the response of the photos was very powerful. We were able to raise money for our organization and so forth. And so I never really, like a lot of people, I never was driven to go in that direction. It happened. And once I was in the direction, it kept going.
I think if it's anything at all, it's being very quiet and keeping back in the corner. And then the curious thing, and I've got to tell you that it's curious to me, that very often people will notice one another at a distance because they could see the camera aimed at them. But when you get closer and you sit down next to somebody, you're part of their lives a little bit, and I think people are less bothered by you. Now that's the closest I can get to understanding it. And in my case, it's the way that I prefer working, because when someone asks me that question, do I turn away? Yes. If I can see somebody's eyes and they say no, or I can see the hand coming up, or I can see the back stiffen. If in the emergency room when I do stories, if you can watch the doctor in the back who's upset and puts his finger up, well, you get the least important person there, and you put the camera down, unless he's rude. And then you continue on. But I'm always very, very aware of this. So somehow the idea of being closer is more comforting to them and to me.
It's Philadelphia and surrounding communities. It's a story of a neighborhood definitely saying no to drugs. 300 people shouting anti-drug slogans, marching around Wharton Square Park in South Philadelphia tonight. Neighbors organized to fight the drug dealers they say are taking over their community. Community leaders say they will stay all night if necessary to drive the drug dealers out.
Anything about that?
To begin with, when you're doing this kind of work, my photographs in Philly are tough because I was concentrating on the plight of people suffering the drug war, the consequences of illegal drugs on families and life there. This is not a study of life overall in North Philadelphia, where every day kids go up to get to school, families are raised, weddings are held, baptisms are held. These are all aspects of life. That was not what I was doing. I was like an assignment photographer. I was there to look at the world of drugs. And even there, the stories are complex, I worked on both sides of the street, which isn't always recommended, but people do it, meaning I worked in the streets with the dealers and going into homes, and then I worked with the police. And even these pictures are complex. Russ Rice is a sergeant here, and he was a good cop, a rough cop, but a good cop. There were a lot of good cops. There were a good number of bad cops, meaning bad that they were violent to the people that they were dealing with. I photographed when it was, people, cops kicking people when they were down, putting guns in their heads, and then diversely cops that felt a lot. But it is the pictures that I'm seeing here an exaggeration in any way? They're tough, but no, not at all. Matter of fact, I couldn't show you the conditions where at that particular time you'd walk down the street and there would be people dead in the doorways. I found a number of dead people from overdoses. There would be people selling themselves here and there. I was only beginning the process of showing how terrible it was. Whole families addicted at a great cost. So the picture's tough, yeah, but they're, if anything, probably not tough enough. Let's look at the previous picture. This is in Philly. A lot of the neighborhoods, Red Hook was profoundly tough for us. And I say tough. I was working with both in Philly, I was working with a wonderful, extraordinary reporter named Ed Barnes. We were working for Life magazine initially when we started this work. Great reporter. We ended up, what happens how you get access to houses in a way is you meet people who say, absolutely no, I can't get involved with you, it's too dangerous. But they'll tell you about somebody else. In a matter of wending our way through the system, we ended up in a house full of young women on drugs. Heart-wrenching, that was rough. One of the kids in this picture is 12 years old. And you can only imagine how they support themselves. Yet they were very kind to us and protective. It's always amazing to me that where you go, it's like people who are in the military, who photograph military stories, find out very quickly that they're there sometimes to be critical of the military, but the people in the field, the soldiers, will very often take care of you, even though they know you might be critical. This is the same while photographing in the drug world. So it became very painful to be coming and going into these households. That's a question I haven't been put in that position to answer because I haven't been turned away. I've turned myself away from times, and sometimes I wish that I had turned myself away where things were a little bit too intimate. I questioned a lot, and maybe rightly so, about a photograph about a woman performing a sex act in Philadelphia, which in many cases I shouldn't have taken. But my job, I thought, was to talk about the immense cost and degradation of the drug world. But I haven't been turned away.